Welcome to Talking in Stations. I am your host, Ron USMC, and I have to. It looks great, Silver. I'm telling you. And with me, as always, is my co-host Silver Suspiria, in this sort of ethereal, out in space. It looks great. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're trying to improve the look. I got my green screen. We're trying to, get some more uniform looks here, get more Eve-like. No more weird NASCAR cars on the back. So it's good. It's good. We're getting
Who's
there.
Keep Stars at? Who's
Uh,
Keep Stars at?
Tiny little group. You might have heard of them called Fed Up. Looking at the Galente Nebula. It's cool.
Right on. So we have a few things to go over, to talk about. I think all of the hype, right? All of the excitement is about the Hypernet. Like, that is just out of control. What have your experiences been so far with it?
I really like it. It's fun. I think it's a neat little twist to market play and to possible accessibility to items that might have been out of your reach otherwise, or maybe some prospects if you happen to win something for a good price, you can flip it. There's a lot of things here. I think on the seller side, it's very exciting. Like you could do some research on what's selling hot on the market and maybe try and buy and flip those in the Hypernet for a little more than you would have gotten on the market. Pretty neat.
And so, but you said that you've bought some tickets on some things. What kind of items were you looking to buy, or to, you know, get a chance of owning? Right.
Yeah, I'm after a Vendetta, man. Like I really want a Vendetta. No particular reason, but I've dropped some coin on some tickets on a Vendetta. I lost the first one. I'm in on another, so we'll see.
Yeah, I had a Vendetta blueprint for like a day a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, I mean, I think that would be an awesome thing to have, right? It's kind of like that next step, but it's not quite a faction titan. It's like that sort of you know, getting like an old Porsche rather than like a new Ferrari kind of thing. It's that kind of medium step.
Yeah, I mean, for
Um,
me, I always liked the Knicks hull, right? But
yeah,
when I got into supers, the hell was just more applicable to a lot of things. So I have a few of those. But to have a Knicks hull of some sort in the hangar would be kind of cool.
so actually, I didn't ask you, but were you around yesterday for Pro God stream?
No, I missed Pro God stream. I had some late work things going on. Um, but yeah, he's doing
Well,
something.
it was it was wild. It was wild. Pro God was in rare form, and he was just hitting on it. And so basically, his summer club thing is him being the conduit for rare ships, right? So the ships and all these things are put up, on the Hypernet, and then he, explains it and kind of talks about it and puts them up in his Discord and does that kind of thing. But they did put up the Raven state issue yesterday. The total on it is like 4.1 trillion. The tickets are something like 7.8 billion, and it's not quite half, right? It's about 330 tickets left, but I mean, that is just an insane amount of ISK, right? There's only four of them. Apparently, two of them belong to one person, and another one belongs to someone else. And then this is the fourth one, right? So this is Blue Melons.
So this ship is kind of exciting, right? Because like if people don't know, it's one of the more iconic Eve ships, right? the Raven hull, first of all, is very iconic, and then this is one of the early AT-4 prize ships.
AT3, yeah.
Three, right? So really early days of tournament play, really early days of like special gifts and rarity, right? It just has Eve written all over it, this ship, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's black with like gold trimmings. But it's got no skins for it, so that's a downer. But
Ah, you don't
still,
need skins for that baby. That thing looks dead sexy the way it is, for sure.
and another interesting thing. So this particular ship was flown in the AT as well. Blue Melon flew it. I forget which one it was, 6 or 7 or whatever it was, and they, destroyed the team that they were fighting against. So it's a very historic ship, and we've never lost one, right? There's one has never been destroyed.
I thought I'd heard one had gone destroyed in one of the AT matches, no? But I mean, that's what's cool about Hypernet to me, right? You get these like storied ships owned by storied people that have done things, and like at the end of the day, it's just pixels. But it's kind of neat. Like, take a shot, buy a ticket. You never know. It's sort of that dream kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the hype from the original, because it's only been up about what, a little over 24, 36 hours ish. I think that a lot of the hype is starting to die down, and some of the people are still putting up ridiculous things, for ridiculous prices, but people are starting to understand the chance to win versus the cost, and putting something up for twice its value, right? For with 500 tickets is not you know probably not going to win you any favors, right? And so many people have lost so much money already, right? Like billions and billions and billions that you almost kind of wonder when that's going to be good, right? Like when are people going to start ratting really heavy to recoup all their gambling losses, right?
Yeah, I was totally joking with the buddy that runs Fed Up with me. I'm like, I stayed up all night ratting for the ISK for that Vendetta ticket, baby. you know,
Oh,
um,
yeah, that's funny.
I didn't, but I bet you're right that there are people that are going hard at this. I
Yeah,
think for sellers too, though, sellers are going to have to learn where that balance is, right? Like how much can you mark up the item with what's the balance between chances to win and cost of ticket that will get people in, right?
yeah, and I when I was doing it earlier today and yesterday, like I'm constantly hitting the calculator, right? Like how much are they charging for this? I wish there was an easy way to see how much they were charging for it, because if you've seen, on some of them the green text shows up, but the green text doesn't represent cost. Like I assume that it would, because if you hover over it, it gives you some user assistance text that describes something like this is below market value or something. But then if you do the calculation, it's actually not below market value. So I don't know. There's some weird things around that, because I think it was like an Astero for 120 million or something is not a good market value, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. It's something around chance to win versus ticket cost or something. I'm not sure.
Right, and that's you as the person entering the raffle, because it is a raffle system, right? You have to keep that in mind. What's the cost per chance to win? If that ratio is off, like it's too much, like these 512 ticket ones, that's pretty bad chances, yeah.
0.19% chance of winning.
Right. So you got to look at that, and if the ticket's like, like the Vendetta, the 512 tickets, and they want, 125 million a ticket, like, I don't know. Like maybe that's not a good one, right?
Yeah, that's like half a bill for 1% chance of winning.
Right.
And I don't know if you guys have my kind of luck, but that's not enough,
I
right?
don't. I never win anything.
I need like 60%, and even then, it's still a maybe.
Yeah, I never win anything.
But kind of overall, and like looking at the interface, one of the things I was talking about is as a V1 interface, what's important is you just reveal all of the possible uses, right, and all the features that they may be difficult to get to. It may not be very usable, but if you can reveal everything and allow the users to kind of search around and find things, it gives a lot of feedback in the form of data that you would get, right? So you could just amass all of this data around how many how the users are actually using it. How many times are they hitting the refresh button, and when they hit history, then what are they hitting? And I'm assuming that CCP has something like Dr. Watson, right, at Microsoft, that tracks like all the clicks and things. I don't know if they do or don't, but I think kind of staying with their iteration, um, the kind of the 2 week iteration, agile development. If they stay with that, I think, and just keep iterating on it, I think it's going to be great because, the search function right now, it just has the two filters, right? The two variable filters, and then you can search, but it's by a market group. But not all the market groups are there, so I think there might be some kind of interesting way to show more of that. And I mean, but you can get to permanent skins, which is honestly the most important anyway, right? So if we could just
Yeah.
get special edition ships, right, I think that would be a big thing.
Yeah, for sure. Because some people are only going to be in this market for the big stuff, the big dream stuff, right? I only want to look at AT ships, and I want to throw a ticket in every once in a while on an AT ship, and if it happens, it happens. If not, cool, right? But also, like, wouldn't it be neat if you could search on like maximum tickets, for example? Like, I don't want to be on in a raffle with 500 tickets, but I'll be in on one with 20 tickets or 30 tickets, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some of the filters. I mean, so this is going to be kind of difficult to explain, but one thing that I found is if you search for something and you find it, well, the arrangement is by number of tickets, right? So from top left to bottom right, it's small number of tickets to large number of tickets. And then within those groups of tickets, the cheapest ticket is at the end. So if you look at the page, the front page, after you initially search, you can look at the last item in that particular set of tickets group, and that will be the best ticket for it, right? So it's the same chance to win, right? But the ticket is lower.
Huh.
It's it's really it's not intuitive, I guess you could say, but also there's no sorting function, right? Because there's only 12 per page. So with such a small amount on the page, it's almost like why would you need a sorting function for these 12 things, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's been maniacal, right? People have been freaking out, and a lot of people have been wasting a lot of ISK, but also you get tons of the I just want a nester with 4 million, right? Or whatever. So cool, man.
Yeah, what about some of the addictive stuff, right? So, like, people are split about it. I hear a lot of different feedback. Some people really like it, other people feel like, oh boy, this can put some types of people at risk. Do you think that we'll see some more safety, like maybe an easier opt-out function or some way to set yourself a spending limit? Like, a lot of legal gambling and raffle sites out there, outside of the game have these sort of functions. You think we'll see any of that, or should we see any of that?
Yeah, I mean, so looking at the interface, you know, it's not as addictive as it could be, right?
Yes.
So there are so many different things that you could do to kind of set these mental triggers, right? To kind of like get that dopamine kind of flowing. And there's like sounds, and you would really be aware of this, like if you were near a slot machine, right? And the sounds and this type of thing. So, you know, it could be they could have gone really crazy with the addiction mechanics, but they didn't. I think that what's interesting is I've talked to a couple of people that have opened up tickets about getting it closed, and I don't know what the mechanics are behind that. I just know that they need to talk to a GM. So I think that they've opened tickets through the main site and, submitted like whatever a general question ticket or whatever to get it shut off. So I don't know what that's about, but you know, I think that there. You remember when there was like that big problem with people getting their accounts hacked, right? And when they got their account hacked, it was the first thing that the person would do would change their password, and then they would go in and liquidate their characters, right? And then what they did is they put that like whatever it was, 14-day like waiting time or something, that if you change your password on your character, you can't liquidate your character for whatever 14 days. I think that mechanic would have an interesting use in this case, right? So if you are on a I don't know, if you purchase Plex or something, maybe you can't join a Hypernode or whatever for 2 weeks or something, or a week or something. I think that might be kind of interesting. Or even just limiting the number that you can do per month or something. Or you could self-limit yourself, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean, like
But,
a self-limit setting.
yep. But, I mean, if you're going to talk about, gambling addiction, then I think the first thing you should talk about is video game addiction, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm just saying that there are some people ratting that that's not human, right? So, if you're spending 16 hours a day on a video game, I don't think gambling is going to be your problem. I think you might need to look at other places as well, right? First.
Yeah, especially in an MMO like Eve that is so deep and can consume your life if not careful. That's maybe this is the least of your problems if you're playing Eve, right?
Yep, right. I mean, why not just put an hourly time limit on characters, right?
Dock
Like
the
you can only play
Oracle
for
up.
6 hours a day. Done.
Yeah, no, very true. Very true. Um, there was other things that happened in the patch notes that just released. I mean, um, that was one of the bigger ones. Like, it came as such a surprise to everyone, right? Because I don't think anybody really expected such a thing, but it's here.
Yeah. One of the surprises in the patch notes for me was the elimination of the scam window, of the trade window scams. Both
Yeah.
kinds of scams were like completely eliminated. And, I just jump for joy at that kind of stuff, man. I hate that crap.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. Like, that's an old one, right? So
Yep.
the trade window, when you trade another character, you can offer ISK for whatever item the other character is putting in the window, right? And then you can take that
Right.
ISK away. So what people were doing was, right, like trading an expensive ship. The person who owned the ship would put it up in the trade window. The scammer would offer or put up some offer of ISK and then knock a zero off it right at the last second and click, trade, right? So
Right.
so instead of getting 50 billion for your Titan, you got 50 million, which
Right.
is really shitty, in my opinion. But that's like the oldest trick in the book. People did that all the way back in the Diablo days, right? We used to do
Right.
those trade window scams. You put an item up and you take it out at the last second, and you get nothing for the item. Like that's a very old MMO scamming tool. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm happy to see that gets patched out because if you're gonna scam somebody, you should be a little more creative, in my opinion. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because both of the scams were eliminated. The first one, what you just mentioned, right, which is, I have something in the trade window, and you have 50 billion in the trade window, and then what you do is change the price really quick, and then hit accept,
Right.
and then you hope that I'm hitting accept at the same time. And if that happens, then the trade is complete. But if it doesn't happen, right? If you don't hit accept at the same time, and then you see the price change, then I'll just change it. Oh, I'm sorry, whatever, right? So, or they just hit escape, right? Oh, sorry, misclick, haha, lol. So that's the first one. And how they fixed that was you can't lower the amount that you put in the window, right? So if you try to change, if you hit offer ISK and you try to change it, it won't let you go lower. So I think that's beautiful. And the second one is the good old fashioned rename the ship, like unpackage the Brutix, rename it to Brutix Navy issue, and then sell that through the trade window, right?
Yep.
And now how they changed that was the name, the type of the ship will show up on the top right next to the ship, and then the personalized name will show up under it, right? So,
Right. And that's
you
just a
can say
logical
Brutix Navy, but
change.
it'll be Brutix, right? Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this stuff, and I saw some of the videos, right, of scamming supers, out of 1DQ, and I don't know, man. Like, I just feel bad about all that stuff.
Yeah, no, Ron's not a fan of taking advantage of people. You're such a friendly
Yeah,
Eve player, though. You're not
I know, right?
as brutal as everyone thinks Eve players are.
Yeah, yeah. And so speaking of that, the wallet. Um, I like the visualization of the wallet. The old wallet was very, kind of cut and dry, and the amount of things in the drop down was just unpalatable, right? Like there was so many, it was almost, ridiculous, right? Like 150 things in the drop down. So I like this, and I like the categorization. But more importantly, I like the change that it's going into a more, not necessarily alert driven, but more of a cursory kind of visualization driven, right? Which is something that you see, and you at a glance you can kind of get an idea of what's going on, right? And I like that, rather than a spreadsheet, right? Which is
Yeah,
not.
just gonna say, like, they've been doing a couple of UI over stuff like that over the last few years. Like one example is the way your skill tree works, right? Used to be very spreadsheety, complicated looking, not very intuitive where things go. So the new wallet look is more in that direction of, a little less stuff and a little more simple
Right.
and pretty looking. It looks really nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they also, on the escape menu, they added the log off button, right, and return to game button. And also, I'm just sitting here looking and remembering, but they've also broken out the orders page from the Alt R from the market window. So you could have this breakout window of market orders to the side and click those, and then that propels the main market window, right? So you can see all the orders and that kind of thing. So it's super handy.
Yeah, I like that because, if you're a market guy and you work in some market orders, that requires fairly regular care and feeding, right? The way the market works is you kind of have to keep your items at the top. Like if you're selling it, you want to be selling it for sort of 1 cent cheaper than the other guy, so that, because when you go and click, you want to buy, I don't know, Spotamine or whatever, when you click buy, it's just going to buy from the cheapest down, right, for you.
Right.
So you always are playing with your pricing to stay competitive with the next guy. So having a window up on the side, just for that while you're doing other things is helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And now, the other kind of big news, right, that was sent out today, which is the 13 days of Eve thing, which is login daily rewards for the next 13 days, starting tomorrow, going up to Christmas. And, with that comes new skins. There are these Aurora Borealis. They have this really neat lighting effect to them. They're gorgeous. And then there's another set that is the Yulai Star, and I think those are the typical kind of holiday skins that they release every year, and those aren't in the game yet, but I'm sure that they'll probably be out in the store or something in the next week or so, or maybe by this weekend.
Yeah, these are
But
always fun.
the 13 Days of Eve, man, like I don't know if you've seen the price of large skill injectors, but the last I looked was earlier today, and they were like 920, and I think they're just going to keep going up because in the first paragraph, it's like, oh yeah, rewards, facial augmentations, snowballs, da 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 da. But really, there's two words in that first paragraph that just set my alarms off. Right, more boosters. So,
Yeah, more
how many,
skills,
dude?
more boosters.
Dude, you remember that last year? People were going nuts.
I know. I know. That was so crazy. Some people lost a lot of ISK doing that stuff too.
Right. So if you guys don't know, last year what they offered was a booster that you could take, and if you took that booster, you could inject a large injector with no reduction based on the amount of XP or the amount of skill points you have. So what that means is someone that has like 150 million skill points, if you took a large skill injector now, you would get 150k from that injector. But after you took the booster, you would get 500k. So this was really a benefit for veterans to kind of forego those, you know, reductions based on their skill points and get a full injector in. And it was absolutely crazy because people were on schedules, right?
Yeah,
I
you
think the
saw
booster was
the
like 8 hours or
so the
something.
return of alarm clocking for skills, right? Remember those days?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, I did like 29 mil, I think it was. How many did you do a lot of it last year?
I did because a lot of my characters are around like my main and my other two mains are above the 100 mil point range, but so that's a decent amount of skill points, but there are still like important gaps. Like, Silver couldn't fly command ships at 120 million SP. I never had to really, but I wanted to, so this was a sort of a way for me to
Mm-hmm.
get there. Like, oh, now I can fly Sleipnir, cool. Or fill those gaps that 120 million SP pilot is well equipped, but with gaps, and I think it fits right in there for a pilot like that to round out what they want to be able to do.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward. So in the morning after downtime, we're going to be able to see all of the login rewards, and I'm kind of eager to see how many boosters are in that. Uh, you know, I- because that's going to be crazy times, right?
Well, that yeah, and there was a trade market around those boosters too.
Oh yeah.
People were throwing them around, and like there was all kinds of interesting stuff that spawned off of that. And I remember CCP being like, "Wow, didn't expect this, but cool, we'll let it fly." Right?
Yep. And just for anyone that wants to know, uh, the boosters themselves go down in price as the event goes on because people run out of money. So do not stock up on a bunch of boosters and expect the prices to continue to go up. People run out of injectors and therefore sell their boosters, and the boosters proliferate the market by the end, and they're really, really cheap.
Yeah, that's very true.
So
So there's this
the
other thing
chilling
here, Rob.
spree. Yep.
Okay,
Go ahead.
we'll do chilling spree, but there's the last
Oh yeah.
paragraph.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The travel filament. Mm-hmm.
Like, what is this? Interesting little
Yeah, it's
nugget.
interesting, right? My first question was, all right, so it opens up some sort of, like abyssal space type of gate, right? Or, kind of entry thing. So I'm imagining that you open that up for your fleet, right? The fleet takes it, and then, but how do you get home? Like, is there like some sort of tap your heels 3 times kind of thing where you get to come home? Do you automatically come home, or do you just have to find your way home from wherever you ended up?
Yeah, I think he just flings you out there, man, and good luck, you know?
And I wonder how many you get, and can you chain them, right?
Yeah,
It's like
right? And how many
just hopping all over.
there's a couple of thoughts around do we know how many pilots can take a single filament?
No, I would imagine a fleet.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard varying numbers from like 10 to 20, but not large fleets.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But again, interesting, right? Like, if you get together with your buddies, and you're like, you know what? I don't know what to do tonight. Let's just open this filament and see what happens. you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And hopefully it is actually random. And by random, I mean not 80% goes to Esoteria. But, that's just me.
Yeah.
Everyone is always random, and they always end up at Esoteria. So, hey, let's see where else you go.
Ron, if there isn't a timer or anything, any kind of cooldown, you know that there's going to be groups rage
Oh, yeah.
filamenting to get to Esoteria, right?
Rage filamenting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know that's going to be a thing. That's the first thing I thought of. Like, oh, great. Volta gets another thing they can rage click to get to where they want to go.
Yeah. Clicky, 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 clicky. Yep.
That's pretty funny. Very neat, though.
So the login rewards, right? So the return of the login rewards slash completing daily NPC encapsulator hunting challenges, giving skill points, and also hopefully skins, lots and lots of skins, and the snowballs. And I actually, it's funny because a couple of events, last year's event, I think they gave snowballs, and now they're melted snowballs. When they expired, like quote expired.
Mhm.
And I looked through my inventory, and I do have a bunch of melted snowballs. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I still got all that stuff too. Because I don't really play with those kinds of things. Like every time they give you fireworks or the snowballs or other things, like I rarely do anything with them, so they just sit in my hangar.
Yeah. So they're saying that you can trade those in and get new ones, and but you're going to be using them in the event. So that that'll be over the next couple of weeks, and that should be pretty fun.
Yeah, if anything's proven that these things work, right? People definitely at
Hmm.
least log in to get their stuff.
Right.
And even if just a few of them stick around and say hi, what's up to their friends, or say catch a fleet that's heading out, that's good. I really like these campaigns.
Yeah. Same here. And so that sort of catches us up on the Eve stuff. Now, have you been paying much attention to? And I'm calling it the Northern War, or the Northern what would it be? The Northern Expedition, right? By Pan Fam and Imperium, kind of meeting around in Five Tac P and all of these areas. There's
Yeah,
been a lot of fights, man. Like in the past couple of weeks.
totally. Even we have taken some wormholes up there just to see what's going around, and maybe we're not really so much interested in the larger conflict to the extreme north, but we definitely like to kick around to what's going on in Tribute, which seems like nightly small to medium sized conflicts. So there's a lot boiling up there.
Yeah, small to medium-sized conflicts. Yeah, that won't last very long.
No,
Everyone's gonna get on that.
I know. I keep hearing people saying, yeah, we should deploy there, we should go there. I mean, that's sort of what happens, right? This last half of the year, it was the South, right? Everything was going on down there. Everyone wanted in on it in some way or form. But this feels a little different. Like, there's a lot of groups up there that are going there, not taking a side either. like just to try to third party. You hear a lot of stuff about that?
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the tribute area, I hear that both sides are trying to stay out of that, um, and that if groups show up to fights, it's sort of on accident. It's sort of on their way or whatever. But the fights that I've seen, which are PanFam versus Imperium, have been really strange in the sense that they're almost even, right? It's strange. One battle report I was looking at was like, um, 137 to 142. Like it's almost like it's planned. Like, all right, you bring 140 and I'm going to bring 140. And then the next one, that really big one, I don't know if I put the BR to that or not, and that was like 490 to like 505. The numbers are just so even, right? That and also the ISK loss is like pretty even as well. So it's just cracking me up, except until this last fight that I just got the BR for today. And this is our old buddy Pando, and he got, you know, he had his Ishtars and he was fighting, and I guess Pandemic Horde hadn't showed up yet, and then they did show up, and then that was, they got outnumbered like 500 to 150. So that was pretty rough.
Good lord, yeah.
I think that's the other battle report, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you send me the other one?
Yeah, I think it's right above it. So yeah, so except for that fight, which they were, outnumbered like 3.5 to 1, the others have seemed just super even. And a lot of these are over, structures that PanFam has put down. And, the 5-tac P in particular is where Init is staged out of. Ranger Regiment has a Keepstar there. And there's a Fortizar not on the Keepstar grid, but it's off the grid, but it's like 20K away. And they've been trying to get rid of it, and they reinforce it, and things happen, and et cetera, et cetera. But I was just watching it earlier today, and it's like a little Astra that could, right? It's like 8 or 10 PL guys are hanging out there on tether and just kind of camping the system and hopping around it's like the spider layer all over again. So my advice to PL is don't let those guys sit in that Astra too long. I'm just telling you. That's just, some friendly advice, because they'll go a little crazy. Yeah, that's it. It's
Yeah.
500 to like 150.
Yeah. Oh boy, that is
Those
a
poor
lot of
stars.
eagles.
Yeah, the scrolling, man. It's just, you just keep scrolling, and it's more and more.
Yeah, those poor Ishtars just got rained on by those eagles, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, that happens.
Yep. Sure
But
does.
it is definitely hot up there. People like I hear people complaining. There's not a lot of conflict going on in Eve, but there is, and I don't know why people aren't talking about it. There's plenty going on.
I think, unless it happens, directly close to them, it's not like people spend a lot of time kind of investigating what is going on outside of their like bubble. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
if it isn't happening, in their like region or whatever in lowsec, and they don't, there's not like insane amount of posting, about it or something. They just, it kind of flies by the wayside, right?
Yeah, I guess you're right. That does tend to happen.
Well, that is. Do you have anything else? That's all the news I can think about. The happenings up in 5-Tech P.
Well, we had structure changes too, right? As part of
Oh,
these
yeah.
patches?
Yeah. So that's another thing about the 5-Tech P, right? So if they kill that Fortizar, well, they'll actually be able to put down another Fortizar. But it's you already now right with an ADM over 3, you can't put down the medium structures, so you can't put down the cheap ones, which is excellent, man. That's already doing a good thing. So, but I haven't been able, I haven't started bashing any structures or anything yet. So I don't know if you've been able to mess around with the timers, but one of the to give kind of a brief class on timers, right? So you have a structure, and then when you reinforce that structure, you have to wait X amount of time, and then that structure comes out of reinforcement, and it has a 15-minute repair window. If you hit it again during that 15-minute window and reinforce it again, then it comes out, and this is the change, right? It comes out 3.5 days plus, and then after 3.5 days, it comes out at the time that you've designated. So, it could be 4 days. But basically, what this means is you can have a timer, like 4 or 5 days, right? But the first timer will still be in the middle of the week. And that's a problem, right? Before, they would all be in the middle of the week, and it would be such a tremendous effort to kill the structure that now we can force a weekend timer, but we still will have a midweek timer to get to that last timer, right? So what I love is that it's not insane, right? That it's iteration, right? And it's an absolute step in the right direction, because basically they solved 50% of the timer problems, because time zone tanking isn't used for your benefit, right? Time zone tanking is used for the creating problems for the attacker. So
Yeah, there's
I
a
don't.
couple of things here. One that slipped by me that I didn't know, and I will show this again. Like you said, this is all to combat the time zone tanking thing, where I'm gonna put my structure in a time zone where you can't hit it effectively. So like if you're coming at me and you're a U.S. time zone group, well, I'll just set my timers to the AU time zone, and then good luck getting everyone up in the middle of the night to kill it. But one change, other than that, you can no longer set the day of the final timer, right? This one, the update vulnerability window now takes 30 days effect instead of 7. That's huge, right? Because that's the window people be like, oh my god, someone's going to attack me. I got intel. I'm about to be invaded. I'm going to change all my structure timers to the opposite time zone. Well, it used to take a week for your timers to flip over, right? So if you change, from 0200 to 1800, next week it'll be 1800. But if it's 30 days now, that's pretty big. You can't just like suddenly change all your timers.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I didn't see
I
that
love it,
until I
man.
just read it now. That's one thing that that I missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm looking at, so it's actually ADM4
Yeah, ADM
and
4.
above.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I
ADM
thought it was
4.
ADM3.
No, I like the number 4 because number 4 is usually a core system, right? This is a system where you're doing a little bit of
Mm,
ratting, a little bit of mining, a little bit of everything to get it to 4. Um, I think you could push a capital system with the bonus to 4 without much work, but 4 is a good number where that's a decent amount of activity that's being maintained, right?
mm-hmm. What about, you know, when we've interviewed some faction warfare guys, they've sort of complained, but they almost mentioned it as like there wasn't anything they could do, but about the tethering, right? So, and I'm imagining that, you have your systems, and the enemy comes in your systems, and then they can tether up, right?
Well, the complaint was the old faction warfare system with NPC stations. If the Galente militia takes over the system, that locks the opposing militia out of docking. That used to be the case, right? So that added a lot of
Mm-hmm.
strategic value to attacking a system. If I attack, you have no place to dock anymore. And guess what? If that's where you were staging, you're kind of SOL, right? All your stuff is locked in there. And the days before asset safety, right? So you gotta be creative about how to get your stuff out of there or liberate the system to gain back your stuff. That all changed when the Citadels came into place because no such restriction applied to them. So
Oh, I gotcha.
yeah, so now when I was in faction warfare, I would just stage out of my Fortizar, and even if the system fell to the opposing militia, well, I could still dock in my Fortizar, so nanny nanny poo poo, that really didn't do much, right? So the complaint was there's no more that the strategic driver to attack and take a system from the opposing militia was sort of eliminated when Citadels came into effect. So this change to not allow the opposing militia to tether on a structure that is in enemy space doesn't really solve the problem. I mean, it takes away a safe spot for them. They can't like run over there and tether like you said. Um, but there's still issues there, right? But it's iteration, and I like
Exactly.
the push in this direction. And faction warfare guys, I know a lot of you said this doesn't go far enough, and you're right, it doesn't. But I like the approach that CCP's been taking with Talos, right? We notch
Yep.
things in the direction, and we keep going until it gets to where it feels more comfortable. And I think this is a great step in the right direction. It's coding in the right direction, right? Let's see how this works, where people can break it, because if you just go straight to docking, bad things can happen. But if you eliminate tether, well, we're getting in the right direction, and I really like it.
Yeah, I'm a fan, man. Like, I'm a fan. This is, kind of, one of my core sort of principles, right? Is design thinking, right? And iteration and iteration and iteration until you arrive. And what I would, tell people is I would set your expectations lower than solving the problem now, and
Yes.
just, is it in the right direction? Yes. Okay. Cool.
Then be
Next step.
happy.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Exactly.
Like these structure timer changes does not eliminate the problem of time zone tanking or faction warfare pushing, or it does not. It's not the silver bullet, but it's getting
Right.
there. We'll see how it
It's not the
goes.
silver bullet, but it is a wagon full of angry citizens chasing the monster down. So it's close.
It's true. Yeah, and then I guess at the bottom part
Oh,
is only.
so Kubo in chat said that he found the filaments in game in the store, and that they have a maximum of 25 ships and a minimum of 5 with those new, magic filaments.
Okay,
So interesting.
I like those numbers. It means that Volta can't rage filament 100
Rage filament.
legions. Hey, I'm gonna use that term until these things go
Yeah, yeah,
away.
yeah. I like it. I like it. Rage filament. Yeah, I'm down.
But yeah,
All right.
man.
So 5-Tac P talked about that stuff. Talked about the absolute insanity of Hypernet. Login rewards start tomorrow. Do you have anything else going on?
No, I think that covers it. There's a lot going on, man, and I like it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then obviously the headline, right, is 2 new sets of skins. I mean, that's obviously the headline. Everything else is completely secondary to that. But
Go straight to Ron's
it
heart
also
with a new
reminds me.
skin.
But it also reminds me that Rise and all them are sitting on that little bombshell, and I'm wondering when they're going to release that. When they're talking about another thing with structures before the end of the year. So I don't know if they'll get around to that, but maybe that was just this. But if I remember right, it was something about low power structures and being able to remove those a little bit easier.
Yes, yes.
So maybe something before the end of the year on that.
Yes, Bliffendor, is that your name in chat? Said Eve Echoes. Check out last week's show, man. We went into Eve Echoes quite in depth with a live demo and review of the game as a whole. But you're right, that is still ongoing. I'm not sure that you can still get into the beta if you haven't already, but definitely check it out. It's a good game. Eve Mobile.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. Hey, Redline. Yeah, no, I see you. I'm just slow on chat, but no, it was like 150. Yeah. All right, man. So I think that's about it.
Alrighty.
Cool. Well, all right, guys. So that's it for this midweek show, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, everyone.